Hi, this is Jeremy Iverson with Colectica, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate Colectica Designer, which is a desktop tool that can be used to prepare various forms of documentation or metadata, and then you can publish that information to Colectica repository, where you can then search and browse and see everything in a web browser. And for more information on seeing what that web portal looks like when things are published to the repository, you can check out the other video that shows some of that. So yeah, to start, I want to walk through just some existing metadata so you can see the structure of some of the types of information that Designer can help you record. So in the Colectica portal video, we saw the live portal for the MIDAS project, or Midlife in the United States. We saw some of the different studies and data sets and variables and all that kind of information. So I'm going to walk through what their metadata structure looks like in Colectica Designer so you have an idea of how that information is prepared and published. So in my checkouts area of Designer, a checkout is basically something you're working on at the moment. In my checkouts area, we've got this Midlife in the United States series, as we call it. And within that series, there are many studies. So remember that MIDAS has been going on since the 90s. It has many different waves and many different data sets that they publish. And so what they've done is they've created one study within the series for every round and project, which is equivalent to a data set in the end. So under any of these studies, we could look and we can select the study itself, of course, to see high-level information like the abstract, the title, citation information, all that kind of stuff. And then we can also see that there is one data file for this particular study. Within Colectica and within the DDI standard we use, of course, you can have many data files per study. MIDAS just happens to have one. When we select that data file, we get the list of all the variables. We can select any of the variables to see the details there. And we can use the buttons like Edit Variable Details or Edit Summary Statistics in order to provide more information if we want to. So we could add longer descriptions or change the labels or anything like that. This is where we can link to source questions if we want to. In the portal demonstration video, we saw how the Closer portal has the variables and the questions linked, and you can go back and forth between the two by following the links. This is where you set those source questions. We also saw in the MIDAS demonstration of the portal the concordance tables, which showed which variables measure the same thing over time. And so the way they specify that is in this concept tab using these represented variables and the conceptual variables as well. So everything you want to say about an individual variable, you can do that in this editor. Back on the breadcrumb bar up here shows how I got here. So we're in the Midlife in the US series within the MIDAS 2 Project 1 study, and then within that data set that's part of that study. So it's a pretty straightforward structure: series, study, data set, variables. And that's really what's powering the portal that we see in that other demonstration video. They have a bit of extra information, some metadata packages at the top level of the series, which allows them to specify their concept set. And this, you might remember, is the set of topics that we saw in the Explore view. So this is where they manage that topical hierarchy that ends up showing up on the web. And again, you can select any of these to provide details. They really only provide the label, which is all that's needed, but you can provide a lot more information like descriptions and mappings to other vocabularies or ontologies if you would like to. All right, so another thing I wanted to show in Designer is how you might get started documenting something new. We've seen drilling into existing documentation, but let's say I just have an SPSS data file and I want to document that. On the Import tab of the ribbon, you'll notice that we have a number of different formats we can import from. So over on the right side are the data formats we support out of the box: SAS, SPSS, and Stata, as well as Excel and CSV. For survey instruments, if you're working with any of those systems like Blaze or Qualtrics or the other ones, we can also import the questions and the logic from those. And of course, if you have any DDI, which is the standard we work with a lot, we can import any of those XML files as well. But for this demo, let's use the import SPSS command, and I'm going to choose an input file. And for SPSS, that's going to be .sav file. So I'll look in my sample directory here and find this cars sample. And I'll hit next now that we've selected the cars.sav. And it's going to tell me there's 9 variables in here. So that means there's 9 columns of data in the data set and some other metadata items that it's extracted from there. So what we pull from these statistical data files are, of course, the variable names and labels. So here's the data file description that I'm interested in. So of course we have the variable names and labels. Their types, which we can see, in this case it's a categorical type. In these cases it's a numeric type. And that's about what the statistical data files have, is the name, label, and then the value labels. And so we bring all that in to DDI and store it locally here in Colectica. One other thing we can do that I like to do right away is to calculate summary statistics. So when I do that, I have some options. We can calculate weighted statistics, but I haven't marked any of these variables as a weight. So we'll just calculate the unweighted statistics right now. I'll hit OK. And after we do that, you'll notice we have the summary statistics available. So for categorical variables, that's going to be the frequencies. For numeric variables, it's going to be the mean and the standard deviation, min and max, things like that. And again, just like we saw with Midas, we could drill into these variables if we want to edit the variable details and provide much longer descriptions. Or if we want to link them to source questions from a survey, we can do that here as well. But for now, let's just leave it with what we came in with. I'll go back to the top level of my checkout. And if I want to see this on the web, to get that within the portal right away, I can use the Publish button up on the ribbon. And the Publish button is going to show that I've got a portal or a repository configured in my designer. It's just called portal1.localhost. It's something I'm running on my own machine here just for testing and demonstration. Yours would normally look like, yourportal.yourdomain.whatever. You'll notice when I publish, I get to enter a log message. So let's say first draft. Everything you publish to the repository is keeping track of changes to that. So if I make changes in the future and I enter log messages, I'll get a nice version history of what has changed and when. In this case, I'll just hit next. It's going to send everything over and I'll hit finish. And now if I go over to my web browser, you'll notice I'm running the portal at the same portal1.localhost, and it's totally empty at the moment. But if I hit refresh in my browser, I should get one data file with those 9 variables. So now we have some content in there. After publishing from Designer, I can click through to the data file and see what's in there. So similar to the pages we saw when we were looking at the Midas portal and the Closer portal in the other video, we've got the same content or the same types of content in the repository and available on the web now. Can click through to that origin variable to see the summary statistics and that longer description that I added. The search works right away, so if I want to search for origin, since I know that exists, we've got the full search on the text of the variable names, labels, all the content that's in there. And we can get through to things that way as well. So going back to Designer, if I wanted to make changes here, let's say I wanted to add some more content. These long text boxes, I guess a couple of notes about that. One is that you can do formatting with Markdown or HTML. So if I want to, I'm not going to type anything too meaningful, but add some more content, maybe a list. You can get a preview within Designer of what that looks like. There's a button called Markdown Preview there, and that'll show a preview of the selected text box. There we go. So you'll notice how there's a header and there's a bulleted list. That's one thing about these longer text boxes. The other thing is that you can have them in multiple languages as well. So I have my Designer configured for English, a few different forms of English, US, Great Britain, and plain English. And for French, you can configure whichever languages are useful, and then you can provide your documentation in any of those languages that you want. But yeah, so I was just making some changes to one of these variables. If I make those changes and hit save, you'll notice that there's some green arrows now in the navigator. And what the green arrows indicate is that I have changes on my local machine that are not yet published to the repository. And of course, I made the change to the origin variable, and you notice it cascade up to the data set and to the metadata package that holds the data set. So once I've made the change, I can publish again. So let's just hit publish there. And this time I'm just going to say added a description to a variable. Hit next. This time it didn't send the full set of items. It just sent the items that have changed. And so I'll hit finish there. And now we can go back to the web browser, and I'll go back into that data file. And it was the origin variable that I made a change to. And yeah, we'll see that extra content that I've added. And it comes through with the formatting on the web with a header and the bulleted list. We also do display by default the history. So if I was interested to see how this variable's description has changed over time, I can click the history tab over here and see that here's revision 2 by me at 11:30 a.m. Here's revision 1 from 11:27 a.m. And we get those messages that I entered as log messages as well. So yeah, that's a basic introduction to using Colectica Designer to enter content, edit it, and publish it to the repository. If you have any questions or want to see things in greater detail, definitely feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to provide extra details or schedule a screen sharing call where we can talk about things in real time. Thank you very much.